In today's episode, we're going to build an entirely custom forest and then completely overhaul our north end with a brand new build. But first, we've got to clear out these tree trunks from last episode. Hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode on the Rotten Block server. We're over here on this part of town, continuing the work that we started last episode. If you'll remember, we tore down an entire forest for its leaves and oak. And then, of course, we wanted to get the trees out of the way so that we could start terraforming as well. And you can see that we've started doing a little bit of that here, where we're going to have this new artificial hill, and also here. On its own, vanilla terrain generation can do pretty cool things and make some pretty neat spaces. But it's also really hard to do procedurality and not have it eventually all look pretty similar or have the patterns start to emerge. Basically saying that if you play enough Minecraft, a lot of these landscapes will start to look familiar and similar to one another, and then that's where we can have fun coming through and making something a bit more custom and intentional. If we take a walk through this mound here, you can see where the original terrain was, kind of down at this level. And then we have this new mound of dirt that's much taller than the original terrain was, and I think it does a nice job of reshaping the landscape a little bit. And actually, if we go ahead and fly over here and take a look at it from a distance, you can see that this new hillside here is already doing a good job of reshaping the silhouette of this backdrop. And then once we build our custom trees here, we'll have these nice little spikes that'll also contribute to the silhouette and ultimately just create a really nice backdrop for our main build that we're going to be working on today, which is our wheat farm. And that's going to be sitting kind of right behind my head here. And yeah, ultimately the goal is to create a nice forest as a backdrop, as well as create a natural boundary to our space here in the swamp. And we'll have a little navigable path that we can go up here and then up through the mountain pathway. And then if we go ultimately to the north, you'll end up towards Renae's perimeter base. So things are already shaping up nicely. Let's go ahead and get right back into it so that we can get this hillside ready for our custom forest. Now, I started terraforming the hillside by laying down just grass to start, because I mostly want to use Lightmatica to get the shape correct by referencing work we did in a creative copy of this world. And then I can make creative decisions in the moment when I come back through later to add trees, foliage, and other details to bring this forest to life. I am still trying to find the balance of how much I want to use Axiom and Lightmatica in my process for survival builds. The results are obviously awesome, but it's also not the most creatively fulfilling task to copy a build from creative to survival, when I could alternatively do more of that building on the fly. But I think everyone would agree we desperately need some form of inventory update to make that more approachable, since there are just so many unique blocks in the game now. Now, of course, as soon as I was going to record a clip, it started raining. It's like the middle of the day, so there's no way I can sleep to skip it. You can see that we've done a little bit more work here, getting a little bit more dirt in. The retaining wall here is new, I believe. There's currently a big gaping hole over here where I thought it would be kind of fun to do maybe like a mudslide or something happened here. So I think I want to save that area to have like a little bit of like a carved out area here where the terrain has sort of given away with the mud and the looser soil and whatnot that's over there. But I think that's more than enough talking about plans for the future, because we've got some trees to plant. Or plant? Now that is absolutely starting to look like a forest. I've probably spent about 5 hours already on just collecting resources and building the trees we have so far, so this is definitely not a quick or cheap process. It definitely requires a good amount of time, resources, and fairly tedious building, actually. I figured that as we walked through the forest, we could maybe do a little bit of extra building as well. Maybe we'll throw some birch leaves around like this to kind of act like underbrush underneath the trees and whatnot. I think that kind of helps establish that there's a main path you should follow, and then if you get off of that, it gets a little bit more wild and unruly to walk through. And then I did bring a large assortment of other things as well. We can do some bushes and ferns and some wildflowers. I think we can just kind of throw these around. My favorite way to do this is to kind of have them be in clusters, not dissimilar to how you would find them in like a flower meadow or a flower forest. And you can already see that just even those little bit of touches that we just did already start adding a lot of depth and complexity to the forest and making it feel even further alive and, just rich with life. And yeah, a lot of the inspiration that I'm drawing from in building this forest is actually my time hiking and living in the Pacific Northwest here in North America. We have loads of these lush green forests that you can just like hike on and go find these really beautiful landscapes kind of hidden away in the middle of nowhere. And I guess I'm ultimately trying my best to kind of replicate the feeling of walking through one of those areas where you have like multiple different kinds of trees. You don't just have like one type of tree in a forest. And then forests ultimately have layers. And I don't think I ultimately captured this as perfectly as I could, but trying to allude to it with the idea that you have like, your main trees, and then you have things like this where you'd have mushrooms and whatnot that would kind of feed off of the wetter less sunny areas where they can kind of hide and accumulate, usually relying on the rotten decay of leaves and other things that have fallen off of the trees to sit on the floor and kind of give them nutrition and nutrients and whatnot for the soil. Now, this is all purely from visual observation, so take everything I'm saying with a grain of salt. I'm definitely not purporting to be an expert on this. And in the process of building this forest here, I've learned a lot already, and I'm excited for the next time I have to build a forest and I can apply those lessons there. All right, we have actually made some changes here on the server. We've updated to 26.1.2 so that we are now officially in the tiny takeover version of Minecraft. There's so many cows packed in here. I don't know if we'll be able to see this very effectively, but I thought it'd be fun to see if we can spot a couple of the babies. All right, let's see if we can't nab one of these guys out of there. I can see them. Oh, hi, little guy. I don't have anything to... Oh, man, this is scuffed. Come on, guy. Yes! He's so cute. I think generally people seem to have liked this update, but I know there was some controversy around it. I don't know. I think generally I'm pretty stoked about this. I am kind of a bit of a texture technical nerd, though, so I get it that something like texel density consistency is probably not gonna, wow everybody, but that's definitely the way straight to my heart personally. And so I don't come across as a complete nerd. Let me explain what I mean by that. Essentially, baby mobs used to use the same texture as their adults, even though they were about half the size roughly. And ultimately that meant that each pixel would be about half as big on the babies as they would on the parents, which is fine. It's a style choice, whatever. But I think having this increased consistency where all of the pixels are roughly the same size, it's the same thing that they did when they updated the gas model when they released the Happy Ghast. And then they made the resolution a lot higher, and a lot of people were kind of turned off by that just because it was new and different. And change is always weird, of course. But I think that in this case, leaning into the consistency and fixing all those errors where there aren't consistencies, I think is the way to go. Now, fairly recently, you've been able to use a data pack called AgeLock from Vanilla Tweaks to be able to achieve this, where you could freeze the growth of a baby and keep them as a baby forever and ever and ever. But actually, this has been functionality that's added in the Tiny Takeover so that we can see all these new beautiful baby models, and they'll never grow up, and we can just have them as cute little adorable pets. I went ahead and took the liberty of making a few golden dandelions. It's actually just normal dandelions surrounded by gold nuggets, which is actually super economic. So how does this work? Do we just, I assume just right click? Ooh, that's a fun noise. Sounds like an egg cracking. Making an omelet. Okay, so you are presumably just, you're there now. Okay, yeah, if I look at Jade up at the top there, it says that the growing time is paused for the baby. What happens if I look at a normal baby? Doesn't say anything. Okay, so that's cool. Jade already has that updated to account for that. That's really neat. Oh man, I'm so excited about these changes. I really do think that the game benefits when you have the ability to do a little bit more like role play, I guess. Some people are really into the building, some people are into redstone and making things really efficient. But I think some people just love Minecraft because it's a game where you can just sit down and play it the way you want to play it. And if you want to build a little farmhouse and you want to live on a farm with a bunch of animals and take care of them, you can do that. And I think this is fun because I think having more variety between the babies and the adults just adds a lot more fun and believability to that roleplay relationship. I think especially with our wheat farm build today, maybe we can have some fun with the baby mobs and have a little space that we can start storing and collecting them. As a non-native to this planet, someone who just crash landed here, maybe we are going to collect the local animals and plants and catalog them and just make sense of them, and maybe we can do that with the baby mobs. That'd be fun. Now we're going to take a little bit of a break because Nick actually wants me to stop by at his house, so we're going to head over there real quick and see what he's up to. Hello?
Hello?
Hello, how's it going? Whoa.
Good.
This space is so cool.
Yeah, it's looking really nice.
I agree. It's a style I haven't really seen before, so that's always really fun. I love this feels very I don't know. The rounded shapes are cool. I feel like that's always a little bit harder in Minecraft. How's it going?
All right, well I need you to do something.
Okay.
Can you fly over to Nats? I've got a path that you can maybe follow that goes in that direction.
Sure. Fly around a bit. This doesn't feel ominous at all. I think there's some bit that's been going on with Nat and Nick about this beehive. It's funny that it's just floating there now. Goofy. Hello.
Well, that was disappointing.
I'm confused as to what I was supposed to see, yeah.
You weren't supposed to see anything. Earlier today, when I was over there collecting some, the kelp from her ocean over there, I crashed twice. And I thought it was a corrupted chunk, and I just wanted to test if that's really what it was.
Cool.
So I need to go test that again, I guess.
You basically just, I feel like you did the equivalent of like putting a helmet on my head and shoving me into war and just said good luck.
I mean, Renae was supposed to pop on and do the test for me, but he never did.
I see. Yeah, I haven't been over here in a little bit. I really like how this area's come along. It's cool.
I'm really happy. Especially like this morning, I did detailing, so I got like the paved road in, and I think it really came together after that.
That's cool. Yeah, this the blocks you have chosen, I think I mentioned this before too, but the blocks you have chosen for the like landscaping you're going to be doing eventually is really fun. I don't feel like I've seen those blocks really in terrain before, and I like how it looks so far.
I mean, I just went off of what I thought a Utah mountain looks like.
Yeah, but I guess, like, you know, obviously our colors are limited in Minecraft, so there's a little bit of, like, interpreting, right? Like, you see an image and then you have to say, like, okay, well, I think maybe this block would be close or whatnot. I think what's actually really successful here is specifically the stripped acacia as a highlight block, because you're right. I think terracotta is not a super, like, crazy pick as far as terrain blocks, but having it paired with the acacia looks really nice with that, like, highlight at the base. Yeah, this is cool, too. Like a gas station.
Yeah, I was really trying not to go for the gas station look, but I was already making like a fuel tank, and I was struggling with the structure over here. I had no idea what it was supposed to be. But then I saw a picture that looks almost exactly like this.
Yeah, this is great, though. I don't think it's a mistake to go for the gas station look. I think this is really successful, actually.
Yeah, no, I think once I embraced the gas station look, it really came together.
Heck yeah. It's always fun and refreshing to have little detours like that to break up the monotony of the building and the terraforming and all that stuff. It's actually really funny that Nick was trying to like trick me into getting crashed in that area over there. After that clip with Nick, we did a little bit more diagnostics work, and I did actually end up crashing a few different times while we were figuring things out. That led us to discover that the crash was definitely related to the sodium mod, and then we started talking to some of the people working on the sodium mod to get a solution figured out. One of the mod maintainers had actually been encountering this for a little bit and was interested in seeing if it was reproducible, so he actually ended up joining our server to get things figured out, and we of course had to kill him for his head a couple times, you know? You gotta take every opportunity you get. Ultimately, it seems like there was some kind of rendering bug that was occurring thanks to a bone meal moss farm that Nat had just, you know, perpetually running over at her house, which is why the chunks over there were tainted, and you know, every once in a while you would just randomly crash. So great job, Nat. Your redstone, you know, made the world a better place today. I'd also love to just give a huge shout out to anybody in the modding community for Minecraft. As a heavy mod user myself, I know that this work can often be unpaid and thankless, but I would just like to say personally that I'm really appreciative of the work that you guys do to make the modding community as healthy and strong and fun and dynamic and all those things as it is. I just really appreciate your contributions. Now, remember how we found those double bastions that were next to each other in the Nether last episode? Because I remember, and I think it's about time we go ahead and tackle that as the sun sets behind us, because I'm ready to get my Netherite tools going. Alrighty, I got myself all geared up here. We've got all of our tools and stuff like that now healed up. We got some gold for trading, and then some storage options with our ender chest, our shulker box, and our bundle. And then I also even went fully out with the full chest plate, just because, you know, piglin brutes, they hit pretty hard, and I don't want to take any risks. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and just fly straight in here, because we can do that. And in case I didn't show it off, we got our nice blinged out pants so that we can be best friends with these guys. And we'll see if we can kind of infiltrate the bastion as much as we can before they catch on to us and, you know, kick us out. Oh, I was going to say I heard brutes. Okay, I think they can't get up this one gap here. Oh gosh. Ooh, they hit so hard. Okay, we're going to put that on before anything bad happens. And I would love to eat so that I can make sure my food comes back. And I think we're okay. I don't think anyone else is going to come from down there. But wow, they hit hard. I'm not super well versed in my bastion shapes, but I think this is a treasure bastion, no? Like this is the bridge and then it would go over. And then there's the pit of treasure over there with the magma cubes and stuff like that. If that's the case, we're probably nearly guaranteed to find our netherite upgrade template that we're looking for. Oh, you got some basalt there, buddy? That's awesome. You gonna be a builder when you grow up? Alright, I can see. I think it is indeed a treasure bastion. So we're probably gonna find some pretty sick stuff down there. Uh-oh. The bad news is this one has been definitely looted, and I probably should have recognized that a lot sooner. Just surrounded in netherrack. Looks like someone just tunneled in and they grabbed it and got out. We're still going to check out that other bastion, and I guess we'll see if that one hasn't been looted as well. I remember I saw the gold on the wall in the last episode, which was my indication that it probably wasn't looted, but I guess, you know, if people don't care for the gold, they could just leave it there, and it could look unlooted when, unfortunately, all the good stuff's been taken. However, this one does look more untouched than the last one did, so got the snout banner. That's something. At least shows that this place has been, you know, at least not fully explored. My friend, unfortunately, I need to dispatch you. No hard feelings. Ah, soul speed 2. I'll take that. This is one of my favorite textures I did for the the book textures. Ooh, almost just spleefed myself. So many scary noises. Oh. My heart's only beating like, you know, a million miles a minute right now. Okay, what are you? You're just a regular guy. You got any brute friends around? You sure do. Ooh, nice. We got a treasure trove. I'm really hoping these aren't looted. Okay, I can't... It doesn't look like they've been looted, but that is not the greatest... I think they've been looted. Well, okay. Since, you know, we've had our plans dashed in those two cases there, I'm going to quickly organize my inventory real quick and get everything stored away and cleaned up. And we're going to go ahead and look for a couple more bastions, because while we're out here doing this, we might as well go until we find that netherite upgrade template. Looks like this is a nether fortress in an area that hasn't been loaded yet, so it might be worth exploring. Hi, guys. Coming in hot. Let's put this on. Oh, it's in nether way, or in the red one. The one with the hogs. Shoot. I didn't realize that I was that close to dying. I thought I had a second to not do that. Okay. Well, that might be the first time I've actually spawned in our rescue ship. So we were heading this direction over here somewhere. Oh, yep. There's the fortress. Here's the Crimson Forest. No freaking way. As if I didn't have enough to deal with, I'm locking myself in and I'm gonna just cry about it. It's fine. Okay, I've taken some time in the closet to collect myself and organize my inventory just a little bit. And I think everything's okay. I think we're gonna be fine. Ooh. Okay, I think this is a new bastion. I don't think it's been looted. There's lots of scary boys all over the place. Looks like there's 2 of them here. Hey, pal. Oh, there's 3 of them, in fact. I'm glad I didn't just fall in there. Now there's almost surely no more down there, right? YOLO. There are more over there. Whether or not we end up finding the loot we're looking for here, it is kind of crazy that we have so many chests all spawned next to each other like this. That's kind of cool. Hey! We did it. We did it. Yeah, we did it. With that, I think we've pretty much gotten everything we could hope to get out of our bastion hunt here. So I think it's about time to head home and we can go ahead and apply our 10 netherite ingots. Now that we are home, I'm playing the fun game of where did Brayton put the netherite ingots? That was kind of an expensive thing to misplace. Originally, I did have them in this barrel right here, I promise. There were all 10 in there. Something in my brain is telling me I actually knew when I put it wherever it is now that I wouldn't find it again very easily. So that probably should have been a clue there and then that that was not a wise place to put it. You know, lesson learned. Okay, there we go. Lesson learned, you know, put things that you care about where you want to find them in the future. Now that we have found our netherite ingots, we're going to go ahead and duplicate our netherite template a few times. So we made a couple extra, but that's all right. I'm sure they will eventually get used at some point. We also have 10 pieces of either tools or armor or whatnot here that we can apply it to and get our stuff upgraded. And of course, I think the most appropriate one to start with is going to, of course, be the hoe. Oh yeah. Now that's some serious dedication right there. Oh yeah. We'll go ahead and do the same with the rest of our tools here. It's insane how much work goes into this all of a sudden just for you to do this all in like 10 seconds, but it's very satisfying. Now, I think because our tools and armor and weapons are all pretty much maxed out now, maybe next episode we'll see if we can give them a bit of a visual overhaul to commemorate getting upgraded to netherite. But we'll go ahead and get to that later, because for now, it looks like we have another new thing to check off of our to-do list. Alright everybody, a little bit of time has passed since that last clip, and I've actually done a little bit more work here on the forest, getting it built out and just detailed a bit more. We'll take a little peek at some of the different new areas from what we can see from here, but I think we're going to reserve the final look for the end of the video after we get the wheat farm built as well, and then we can see everything kind of all together. I promise, the beauty shot is coming. But before we get there, we still have our entire wheat farm build to get to. That certainly will be no small task because it's going to require quite a few blocks as well as a bit of terraforming in this area. And then the build itself is actually going to have a basement, so that's also going to require a lot of digging to get this area kind of cleared out and excavated. Our primary concern is with getting the exterior of the build done. And then I think the end result will be this sort of industrial mecca where I can put all of our organic farms. And that will of course include the wheat farm, but it'd also be nice to throw in like a flower farm, as well as any of the plants you can grow with bone meal. And maybe we'll even move our pumpkin and melon farm down there eventually. But of course, as I said, none of that can happen yet until we get the build done. So I think it's time. We're reaching the end of the video here. I'm excited to get this done so I can finally show you guys the result. And yeah, I think without further ado, let's get right into it.
Keep dancing. Move to the beat. Dance all night.
Alrighty, and there it is, everyone, our finished build. I legitimately don't think I could be happier with how it turned out. It's pretty awesome. Let me show you around. The initial concept for this build was actually based on an artwork I found on ArtStation by an artist named Marvin Hillmann, and I think working from this reference actually really helped me push this build in a direction that I don't think I would have otherwise achieved. I'm especially fond of the shape of the roof because I think it's pretty unique, and it really sets the build apart with a very strong silhouette. I also love these antennas coming off the top there, and I think it's fun that it shares the shape language with the antennas on the bee farm over there, the hive. We have this tunnel going through the center of the build, and that's also an idea that was influenced heavily by the concept. I thought it would be fun to allude to the idea that we have these tracks that are sort of going through, and then you also have these train cars or whatever that are full of supplies, and then the idea being that here at the farm, you would load these up, and then they could ride the tracks off into the distance wherever our silos and warehouses are eventually for more long-term deep storage, I suppose. So I think we'll definitely play with this more in the future and continue this track off in the distance. Maybe it would make sense to have our storage or something over there. If we head inside through the front door, you'll see that we've started to get the interior of this place coming together. I especially love that you can see the tunnel cutting through the building from the underside as well, and I think this sort of track on the bottom side of that really adds to the industrial feeling of this space and adds something really cool as a focal point for the room. And then each of the doorways has these sort of gateways with the trapdoors and the iron bars and the dispensers. And then these are supposed to allude to a sort of pulley system where the doors could hypothetically close and open. You can see that this one over here actually is a little bit more closed than the other two to kind of give that dynamic appearance to the room. And the room is super nice and bright without all the torch spam because we have this recessed lighting underneath the honey here with the frog lights, as well as in the roof where our rail is. I think that really just adds to the idea and vibe of this space being very high-tech and industrial and structured, very organized. And then you can see that we've started to excavate the basement down here, where we can obviously put our farms and put a little bit of our storage and whatnot. But obviously for the time being, it's still just a lot of dirt and rock and stone and whatnot. But when I snap my fingers, we can finish this entire basement in the blink of an eye. And now we have so much storage for all of our organics. We can start using this space for all of our moss and our leaves and our flowers and anything else like that. And moving all of our organics to a central location like this will make them easier to find in the future, as well as also lighten the load on our storage in all of our other locations. So I'm pretty stoked we have this now. If you follow me over here, you'll see that we have these sort of like doorways that have been denoted, and eventually we will build some tunnels off in that direction, and that's where we're going to be putting our farms and whatnot, both here as well as right there. And then I just went and decorated the basement here with some more natural looking things. So obviously there's lots of plants, and then also wanted a little like terracotta corner, maybe, doing some pottery and whatnot. You'll notice that the upstairs has changed as well. We now have this central pillar that kind of helps support the rail that's going across the middle of the room. And then I really like this little detail here. This is supposed to look like those same crates and containers that are up there that would be potentially holding up some cargo and whatnot. Now, I'm like super stoked on this interior. I think it's probably one of the better interiors that I've done in some time. But I'd love to know your comments too. Let me know down below what you think. And before we say our last goodbye for the episode today, there's one more matter to take care of. I did promise you guys that we would do one more walkthrough of the forest now that everything is kind of overhauled and detailed. Starting with this detail here, I love that we have the path that goes down and underneath this sort of arch. I think this is one of my favorite things to do, is to create like things over your head. I feel like it ties things together a little bit more intimately than just having like a build over there and then a path over there, you kind of have them intertwine a little bit together and look a little bit more intentional, I would say. If we walk up the path and take a look to our right over here, you can see that we've gotten there's some fruit and whatnot, and just generally it's pretty overgrown. Now, obviously in the world and game of Minecraft, these are melons and these are pitcher plants, but I really like the color that they add to the space, and I thought it'd be kind of fun to maybe see them as like a berry, like a giant berry. I don't know how much logical sense that actually makes, but I'm having fun. So there's a little like sit down log here. It's a little rotted out log that's covered in moss, but it's a nice little seat to sit as well if you're right at the beginning of your journey and you just need to take a little breather. Off to the right here, I added a little bit of a detail that's supposed to kind of look like a dried riverbed or something like that. Like this would obviously be some stone that's sticking out through the dirt because potentially the water has washed away all the dirt that would have been sitting on top of it. And through natural erosion and weathering, rain kind of would fall here and then find its way and make a stream that would go down and eventually wash out all the dirt that's here. And now, last but certainly not least, this might be my favorite detail of the entire forest here. It's this fallen tree that sort of found itself caught up in the canopy of another tree. And I really like this because it's a fun little interaction between multiple different elements here. And you see that the spaces where the trees are kind of intermingled have started to die off a little bit because now they're competing for resources and don't have as easy access to sunlight and whatnot. And then obviously also this is a broken dead tree as well. So that means that any of its root systems and whatnot are no longer doing much for it over there. So I really like that effect. And you can see again, I'm using that archway over the path thing. So I really do think that is just a thing I like to do. We really built so much in this episode and I'm really stoked with it all. It's the colors, the shapes, just everything looks so nice and so lush. I really hope you like it as much as I do. I'm excited to hear you guys' feedback and your comments on it all. I'd specifically love to know what your guys' favorite parts of this build today are, so let me know in the comments. Sound off. Oh my gosh, nature is healing. I have no idea where this pig came from, but he's here now. Yes, you. And there's a frog too. Nature really is healing. But unfortunately, with that, all good things must come to an end. So we're going to go ahead and make our way back down the pathway, just enjoying the atmosphere of this space as our base is slowly coming together more and more. Thank you guys for sticking with me for a little bit of a longer episode today. I hope you had a good time, maybe had a little feast for your eyeballs with all of the beautiful things on screen today. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and we'll see you next time on...